Today we're going to talk about case study interview preparation. Case study interviews are very different from behavioral interviews. A lot of times companies will use both. Sometimes they will start or have the first interview as a behavioral interview, and then the second interview is a case study. You need to start being prepared for those kinds of things. The behavioral interview really looks at eliciting experiences that you've had. They look at behaviors. They look at knowledge. They look at skills and abilities that you may bring. They encourage responses from an interviewee through the use of initial questions, followed by a series of open-ended questions designed to get you to talk. So what is a case study interview? It's very different from the behavioral. Case study interview is where you are presented with a challenging business solution and you must investigate and propose a solution. What they are looking for here is, first of all, numerical and verbal reasoning skills. They are looking for communication and presentation skills. They're looking for business skills and commercial awareness. They're looking for energy. They're looking for flexibility. And they're looking for maturity. Math is going to be a part of it, so you need to make sure that you brush up on your math skills. The interviewer is curious about how you go about solving the problem. So let's say they present you with this. Pet company was at 30 billion last year. It is expected to grow 5% a year for the next 5 years. What's it going to be 5 years from now? You have to think through that. The widget market is 170 million and our sales are 30 million. What percentage of the market share do we hold? Our total manufacturing cost, with that, we can make 39,379 units. Our approximate cost per unit. You bought a stock for $36 a share. Today, it jumped 6%. How much is your stock worth? You raised $3.5 million for a startup. Your commission is 2.5%. What's your commission in dollars? There are two main types of questions that they're going to present you with: brain teaser or market sizing, and business problem. Brain teaser would be something like this: how many pencils are sold annually in the United States? How many dogs are there in California? What are the chances of rolling double sixes 3 times in a row? Business problem would be something along these lines. A pharmaceutical company is trying to decide whether to manufacture its drugs in-house or outsource. How would you help? The company that owns Vail Mountain has seen a decline in revenues for the past 5 years. What should it think about? What companies are looking for is not necessarily the answer. They are looking for a relaxed, confident, and mature person. They want a good listener who can ask insightful questions. They want somebody who is a good communicator. They're engaging, very enthusiastic, and they have good social and presentation skills. You should be able to determine relevance, see patterns, and generate hypotheses. They want you to be able to think creatively, have good logical reasoning skills, and be able to defend what you come up with without being defensive. to be able to sit there and talk through what's going on. And when you look at all of those are the kinds of things they want to have a person with and be able to bring into the office. So here's some tips for answering some of the case study questions. First, take notes. When you go in, always have a notepad and a pen with you so that you can write things down. Be very attentive to the things that they're telling you. Make no assumptions during this time. Ask questions so that you can obtain a very accurate picture of some of the relevant facts. Listen carefully to the answers that they give you, because it's going to clue you into some of the things that they're looking for. Maintain eye contact. We've talked about that in former workshops. Take your time. This is not a rushed deal. A lot of times they may give you a certain amount of time, but asking questions and doing these kinds of things, that's all a part of it. Make sure that you lay out a roadmap for your interviewer. They need to see where you're going, what you're thinking. Think out loud. Don't keep it inside. Talk it through so that they can hear what's going on inside your head. Present your thinking in a clear and logical manner. Then quickly summarize your conclusions. So how do you attack a case study? Well, there's some key things that you can do. The first is framing and analyzing. Framing and organizing, these help you identify key issues in order to solve the problem. Prioritizing issues, assess issues, prioritize and form a coherent plan of attack. And identifying relevant information. Dig deep enough to find detailed information leading to meaningful answers. And then you've got to have a conclusion. Drawing conclusions from facts. This is where you use information that has been given to you and manipulate it accurately to a logical conclusion. Identify key displays or data dimensions that are needed. Derive relationships among different dimensions of data so they can see what's going on. Then identifying key implications and next steps. This is where you predict relationships and outcomes based on sound reasoning, clear logic to conclusions, and delineation of alternatives. So, introduction to the case. Let's say that your client owns and operates an independent mom and pop gas station, compared to an Exxon station that opened across the street 12 months ago. This is the beginnings of the problem. Now, for the mom and pop gas station, they're selling gas for $1.01 per gallon. They operate on a break-even profitability. Exxon can sell gas for 99 cents per gallon. They seem to be blowing and going based on their traffic. What would you advise the clients to do? And don't say close up shop and move on, because that's not a good answer. But think through it so that you can kind of come up with some ideas that may be helpful to them. So let's look at a framework here. Here's a description of it. These are models, tools, or maps to provide a systematic, logical way of analyzing a problem. Show cause and effect relationships to focus on, and distill a complex, ambiguous problem to relevant issues. Some of the benefits is this helps guide you through some questioning for the interviewer and lays out your analysis in a logical, coherent manner. It paints a picture of how you think. Again, that's so much of what they're looking for. How do you think? How do you go about determining what should happen? And this allows you to apply your experience to some unfamiliar situations. Here's some examples of some frameworks. SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Value chain analysis: comparative economics, product technology lifecycle, decision trees. Here's some do's and don'ts for framing. Use one structure for your answer. Explain insights from the framework. Creativity is the key here. Get buy-in from the interviewer. Get them to really see what you're doing so that you can engage them. And that's really so much of the key to this, is getting that interviewer to be engaged with you. Use analogies if possible. Practice, practice, practice. You do get better at through time as you practice these things. Here's some don'ts. Don't force fit a framework. If it's not working in this situation, don't use it. Don't overuse buzzwords. Don't try to apply a framework that you don't know well. Don't ignore direction from the interviewer. As far as the analysis is concerned, here's some do's and don'ts for that as well. Always scratch your analysis on paper, even just random streams of thought. Put it down. Always use facts provided to develop support for your conclusions. Always ask for more data, clarifying information. Make sure that you've got it correctly. Keep your framework in mind so that you can tie back to that. Do math on paper. Use round numbers. Start over if you need to. And as always, think out loud. They want to hear what's going on. They want to hear how you're thinking. So here's some don'ts. Don't overly worry about basic math mistakes. Just don't make too many of them. Don't worry about decimal point precision. Don't lose sight of the issue. In other words, don't get lost in the details. Don't lose contact with your interviewer. They're the ones that you are trying to impress. Don't ignore when analytics disprove your original hypothesis. And don't keep your thought processes to yourself. Here's some do's and don'ts for concluding the case. Always summarize your analysis. Provide a clear recommendation of the hypothesis derived from the analysis. Highlight additional information you would need to know. And identify any implications of your recommendations. In other words, the competitor's response or a client's reaction to what you are proposing. Don't forget to conclude the case regardless of progress made or time constraints. Don't waffle or be indecisive. Have a point of view and confidently support it. Don't ask for feedback. And don't forget the original question. Now, how do you prepare? Well, guys, there's no magical formula. First thing is to practice. Practice with classmates, practice with friends. Use us in the CMC. We will be able to help you. Look on the web for firm-provided practice questions. For example, bcg.com. You can go there and find all kinds of different scenarios that will help you. Case interview guides, such as Wet Feet. Prepare mentally. You want to view this as an opportunity, not a hurdle that you have to get past. It's going to stretch you. Remember, most questions have no right answer. They're looking to see how you think, what your process is. Familiarize yourself with different frameworks. Don't forget about the conclusion. One of the biggest things that you can do is read. Just be a sponge. Read as much as you can. Think through implications. Read the Wall Street Journal. Read Financial Times. Read the New York Times business section. Before the case, make sure, number one, you arrive on time. First of all, it makes a good impression when you arrive on time, and it takes a lot of stress off. If you're getting there just right at the time you're supposed to start, or even a little bit after, your stress level is going to go up, which means that you're not going to be able to think as clearly. Take time to assess your surroundings. You are interviewing them as well. Always keep that in mind. How are they handling all of this? Make sure that you dress appropriately. Don't ignore the chit chat that goes on during the case. They may be giving you some clues on some things that you need to be aware of. Be consistent, but not monotonous. Take notes when your interviewer is describing the case. That does several things for you. First of all, it shows the interviewer that you're interested, that you're paying attention, and it's making sure that you are able to remember all of the details of what they're giving you. Repeat the case back. Ask them, okay, is this what you're seeking here? Don't be afraid to ask for help. And then after the case, send thank you notes. Watch your mouth. Don't be talking too much about it, because sometimes what they will do is they will put you in a team and have the team with people that you don't even know necessarily, have the team work on the case to see how you interact with other people. And so make sure that you watch your mouth during those times. Don't be bad-mouthing anybody. Here's some practical tips for some success. As I mentioned before, bring a pen and pencil along with a pad of paper. Feel free to pause, particularly at the beginning. Don't panic. Ask questions to clarify facts. Learn information. Structure your analysis before you begin. Think out loud. Now, in a classroom setting, if a professor repeats themselves or repeats several things, that means that that information is extremely important. So I have mentioned thinking out loud several times. Guys, think out loud. Be clear about your assumptions. Silence can be golden. Sometimes you just gotta let it be quiet for a minute. And do whatever makes you comfortable. Approach it with your personal style, not what you think is expected. Be yourself. And what I want to do here is give you an example of a business scenario that you may be presented with that you need to think through. I'm going to read this, and then I want you to think about it for a minute, and then I'm going to give you some things that you need to be asking about. Our client is a skincare company that has seen an explosion of sales after being in the business for a few years. Even with a drastic increase in volumes, the company is in the red. You help figure out how to get the client into the black. something you have to really focus on. Okay, what's going on here? What do you need to be concerned about? What do you need to think through? So here's some things to be asking. What are our clients' revenue streams? What percentage of total revenue does each stream represent? How is our client growing relative to the industry? What is our market share compared to competitors? What is our client's pricing its products at? What is our pricing strategy? Have they considered increasing prices? What about bundling products so that customers buy more at one time? Have they considered that? Again, all of these things provide you with good information. Let's look at costs so that you can get a handle on that. Remember, you're trying to move a company from being in the red to being in the black, but once again, their sales have greatly increased. What are the major fixed and variable costs? How have costs changed over the past few years? How are our clients' relationships with suppliers? What is happening within our clients' market or the economy that is impacting costs? What does our clients' fixed and variable cost look like on a cost per unit basis? And what type of supply chain is involved with the product? These are all things that you need to be pulling in and gathering that information from the interviewer so that you know, okay, here's how we can figure this out, and give them some good ideas on what would be appropriate for the client to do. These are the types of scenarios that you need to be very aware of, and just practice, guys. Make sure that you get in and visit with your other classmates. There are plenty of books out there that can help you. All of these things help you get prepared for a case study interview. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd be glad to help. Thanks.